The GeminiJets September 2021 releases. Where are they? Wouldn't we have expected worst case scenario to get these sometime in October of 2021? It is almost 2022 as we speak, as we're going into December of 2021, and we are still without the GeminiJets September 2021 releases. What's going on with GeminiJets? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Redriveraviation. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day today. And today we have a video about what's going on with GeminiJets in late 2021. I really hope you guys are excited for today's video. Today we're going to be going over the full context and the full situation, like I said, about what's been going on with GeminiJets as of late and why some of these releases have been taking so much time to get to us collectors. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I hope you guys are on a fantastic day today. Super excited to get into today's video. I really hope you guys are excited for it. And with all of that being said, everybody, we are going to waste no further time with getting into today's video because we have a lot to talk about, to say the least. So, for this video, we're going to be going into two segments. In the first part of this video, we're going to be explaining how the GeminiJets model manufacture process works from GeminiJets themselves until they get to the customers. And then following that, we're going to be talking about the reasons behind why the GeminiJets releases have been so delayed as of recent and go into the full detail and context about why this is the case. I really hope you guys are excited for today's video, like I said. And with all that being said, everybody, let's get into the full reasons, or sorry, the full process about how GeminiJets makes these models, pardon me. So, you guys have probably noticed that the GeminiJets September 2021 releases are not here yet. And you guys are probably wondering, why do we need to go into the full process of how the models are produced to figure out this one simple reason? Well, I feel like if you guys see the full process of how a GeminiJets model is made, it will give you guys the necessary context and background information to see how big of a deal this or how big the reason truly is for why the models have been delayed. So with all that being said, we're going to be going into the full process about how GeminiJets makes these models. So we can only assume that Todd Elliott and all the boys, somewhere in there, they get into some sort of room, we can assume, and decide what models they would like to be produced. This goes for any exclusive, any sort of company that's making models, all that sort of thing. So all these guys decide on what model they want to be made. And once they do that, they're like, you know, Todd throws out a suggestion. He's like, hey, I want an American Eagle Bombardier Sierra Day-900 and 1/400 scale in the current livery produced. Once they decide upon that and all the models that they choose, I'm assuming they probably do it in bulk, so probably maybe 10 to 20 models at a time, that sort of thing. Or maybe they do it by month, I'm not sure. They may mix them around. I have numbers all over the place, so honestly, who knows. But once they decide on that, then what they do is they go online, probably is my assumption. I'm not sure how they did this way back in the day. But somehow, some way, they probably go online and they decide, hey, they go to the factory's website in China. That's where all the models are produced by GeminiJets, is in China. They go onto that factory's website, or email them somehow, some way, and they request. They're like, "Hey, I want an American Eagle Bombardier Sierra Day-900 and 1/400 scale in the current livery." And they give them how many they want. We'll just say, for this example, I want 3,000 American Eagle Bombardier Sierra Day-900s in the current livery in 1/400 scale, and I will pay you this amount of money for those. So they'll pay them that select amount of money, or they'll offer to do as such, and then the factory will get back to them and say, hey, this is awesome, we would love to do this, etc, etc, etc. Here's the time frame on how long these models are going to take to be produced. So then Gemini strategically plans to, like, okay, we can set up this release here, this release here, this release here. For instance, we'll just say Gemini, or the April releases will have the American, the March releases will have the Delta, etc, etc. The list goes on. So once they get that request into the factory, then the factory begins producing the model, of course. So they get the mold ready for the actual aircraft. So in this case, I actually have a model right here I can demonstrate on. So to make this model, first off, they get the fuselage parts made, the wings part made, and all that fun stuff. So they start producing it one by one. So for instance, they'll take the wing right here and they'll start making the molds for that and the pieces and the colors, putting all that fun stuff together. Sorry about the flies, guys. But they'll start putting all that fun stuff together and start making it one by one. And the plane starts getting assembled. And then they'll put the livery on the aircraft. They'll put all the aerials, the landing gear, the antennas, all that fun stuff, the rolling landing gear. They'll start assembling that onto the aircraft. And by the time that process is fully complete, you'll have a full American Eagle Bombardier Sierra Day-900. They're over there on the shelf, so I apologize about that. But Once you have that full process complete and your full model is produced, now there was a time when this particularly was the issue, but this is not the issue as of late. So actually, if you guys are wondering why the May releases were so delayed of 2020 and why there was no April 2020 set, the reason was because the employees of the factory that would make these models in the assembly lines, they had very strict COVID restrictions, and they had to obviously had to quarantine due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So in this regard, that was an issue, but that was previously. And obviously that was not too long-lived as we got back on track by May. So once we got back on track by May, once we got back on track for GeminiJets, what happens is once all these models are fully produced, then the boxes are made, the plastic cradles, the plastic sheets, all that fun stuff is put together. And once they put all that fun stuff together, then they put the aircraft into the box and they start getting them all done one by one. Then they'll put the actual aircraft model boxes and the aircraft themselves into boxes with each other so they can come in large quantities to GeminiJets. Once these are all fully put into the big GeminiJets box, I'm sure you guys have seen it before, the big GeminiJets box with the logo on it. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Once those are, once those are fully complete, I'm not sure if they're put into crates at that point yet, but somehow, some way, they're probably put into crates or other transportation methods of sorts. And then they are loaded into vehicles, and then those are drove to the ports of China to be shipped out. I'm not sure exactly where, somewhere in China to say the least. So once that is fully complete, then they are loaded onto the ships. With all of the necessary criteria they need to go to the United States, so the international forms, fees, all that fun stuff. They are loaded onto the ships at the port in China, and then these ships, obviously, it should work like this. Hopefully it's the right side. But they are shipped from China all the way across to the United States in California. Once they arrive in California, they make it to the United States ports by ships. Keep in mind, this process probably takes several weeks at a time, sometimes months. Once they arrive to the ports, they are the ships arrive into the port, and then obviously I forgot to mention this, but the cranes put on the the cranes put on the crates onto the boats in China. The same thing happens in the United States. The cranes will pick up the boxes and then set them down onto the necessary, I'm trying to think of the word, necessary, whatever just the ground or wherever they need to go. And once these are sat down, then they are distributed into their respective places. And then I'm not sure if GeminiJets flies these aircraft or they transport these aircraft via aircraft or drove over the headquarters. But regardless, somehow, some way, they are transferred from the port over to the GeminiJets headquarters in Las Vegas. Once they arrive to the headquarters, when you see GeminiJets posting the big GeminiJets box in their story, and it arrives into the warehouse, this is the step that we are on. All those aircraft arrive, the GeminiJets takes them out of the boxes, and then they start shipping these individual models to the retailers themselves, the model airplane retailers, like our Model Store, Midwest Model Store, Panda Fox Toys, DG Pilot, wherever you may be, Diecast Airplane Store, whatever the case may be. These these boxes are loaded up, and then I think GeminiJets flies their aircraft out to people somehow, some way, but they are then shipped out somehow, some way to the retailers, and then the retailers receive their boxes, and then they do whatever their criteria is, whether it's quality control checks, packaging the box, all that fun stuff, and then they ship it to the customer themselves. And then, like those boxes, any boxes that you guys get from model airplane retailers, once that box arrives, then this process is self-explanatory. You open the box, you get your model out, you see how it is, the condition, how good of a model is, all that fun stuff. And that is the full process of how a GeminiJets or just a GeminiJets model is made in general. Very lengthy process, of course, starting all the way back in the United States in the room with Todd and Elliot, and then going all the way over to China, being produced, then being shipped back to the United States, then on to the retailer, and then on to the customer. It's a pretty lengthy process, to say the least. So with all that being said, you guys are probably wondering, so what's the problem with this process? Doesn't this happen overnight usually? Can't this be done without any issues? Normally the answer is yes, and that's why we have monthly releases, and I'm very thankful and grateful for our monthly releases normally. But unfortunately, due to a big issue in this chain link process, there's been huge delays in the GeminiJets releases as of late. Like I referred to earlier in this video, the April release that never happened for 2020. We also did not have a November 2020 set, probably for the same reason as well. And now, probably no October, probably no November. and potentially not a December/January release as well. So many releases that have been vacated due to these reasons. Now, let's go step by step back through the process to figure out what the problem may be, because there's one huge problem that is causing a huge delay. Okay, so Gemini is requesting the model. That's done online. There's no issues with that. They decide on what models and they request it to the factory in China. No big deal there to my knowledge. The factory, like I said, they haven't had any issues to my knowledge since, mid-2020 with factory workers and all that. So that's not an issue either at this point. So then then they package the model, all that stuff's fine. There's no supply shortages over there to my knowledge. They make the models, all that works. Then they ship out the model from China. This is where it starts to get pretty dicey. As you guys may have seen in the news recently in the United States, for the last several months, this has been an issue actually dating back to last year, but it's got especially bad as of recent. Due to ongoing effects because of the pandemic, as we'll get into the two big reasons here in a moment, the Los Angeles/Long Beach port in California has been an absolute mess, to say the least. It has been so backed up, with hundreds of ships being waited to be deported at the port. This step is where the problem lies, and this is why we currently have a delay. There's currently hundreds of ships waiting right now as we speak to be deported at the Los Angeles Long Beach port in California. The Los Angeles Long Beach port in California only has so many shipping dock spots available for the cranes to be able to lift up the boxes and put them onto the ground to be distributed. And due to two major reasons, this process has built up and up to the point where it started with one ship being behind, then another ship being behind, and then another ship waiting behind that one, then two ships waiting behind that one, to the point where there's hundreds of ships currently waiting to be deported with all their goods on them. These goods include die-cast model airplanes, automobile parts, furniture, plastic for the water bottles probably, pens, pencils, all that. Everything that you could imagine is probably entailed in shipping containers one way or another. I'll get into the reason why GeminiJets does not fly their shipping crates in a moment. NG does, but I'll talk about that momentarily. But we have to get to the full details of the two main reasons why this process has been affected so drastically. The first reason for why this process is currently getting held up so severely is because, it looks like there was some sort of weapon in front of the camera, I apologize. But the number one reason, these two reasons are pretty even, but they really work off each other to be a really bad perfect storm for us model airplane collectors. But the first reason for why this process has been so backed up and why we have hundreds of boats currently waiting to be deported is because of strict COVID restrictions in California. That is the first reason. Due to COVID-19 and the pandemic, when all of this started, obviously this is a huge health scare, everything along the lines of taking the best precautions we can if we're going to be out and about. So I have a couple of really good articles here, and there's a really good explanation of this in this article that I'm going to read off to you guys. This article I'll link in the description. It's by Popular Science. Here we go. So this is the problem right here. Sorry. Okay, here we go. So this reason right here I think is going to make a lot of sense to you guys. The implementation of COVID restrictions caused many problems at the ports, particularly in this example, the California ports. Not the Oakland one, I'm sorry, the Los Angeles Long Beach. For examples, officials noted that every shift change for port workers requires new protocols, including the cleaning of crane compartments and equipment, daily health screening for staff, and other inefficiencies caused by social distancing measures. This is one of many restrictions that I'm pretty sure of why everything's getting backed up. So let's go through this step by step to figure out how much time this actually takes. So these COVID restrictions have been implemented for the sake of our health, of course. And every shift change, every single crane worker. So of course, to get these carts off of the boats, we have to have somebody operating the crane to lift it and put it onto the ground, of course. So every crane worker has to go through this process in order to deport goods. So the first thing they have to do is wait for the crane to be cleaned up. The compartments have to be cleaned. The equipment has to be cleaned. All that fun stuff has to be, completely wiped down in order for them to be able to get on the cranes. I'm assuming this process probably takes anywhere from 15 minutes to potentially even an hour. I'm sure it's got to be pretty lengthy in terms of cleaning off everything. So that process already by itself is going to cause a backlink effect, because as we know with exponential functions, if you've took algebra 2, just in general, exponential anything. Once it happens once with that increment of time, if that starts to build on each other, you're going to have some absolutely huge exponential function that would lead you into this issue that we have right now. Chain link effect is awful, and it builds on each other. This is just like dominoes. Once one starts falling, they all start falling. And this goes for every crane worker. Once one crane worker has to wait, the next one has to wait double the time, and it just builds to the point where we have hundreds of shifts. But to go into even more problems, these crane workers have to get daily, probably COVID checks with the health screening, I'm assuming. So probably daily COVID tests. So that's another time implement. You have to go in and do that. And then if you're negative, they have to get a replacement worker. So, or, positive for COVID because you can't be there. So then that happens. And then it's somewhere in there you have to social distance. I don't know if this is because you can only have so many people in a crane at once. I thought it was only one person, but I'm not sure. Regardless, though, somewhere in social distancing land, there is a delay, to say the least. So once you have all these delays, then all these ships start to wait. How I was saying 1 ship, then 2 ships, then 3 ships. This is the beginning. But this second element that makes for the worst perfect storm dynamic duo is just the end of it all. And it's pretty simple, believe it or not. The second reason for why these delays have been so or why the delays have continued to build on each other and have been, to the point of 3 months for waiting on GeminiJets, is because of a surge of online shopping demand from the United States. And I'm sure this is going to make sense to a lot of you guys. When we were unable to go to stores and purchase these necessary products that we needed, online shopping was already on the rise as it was pre-pandemic. But we're just going to say that it was a small exponential function at that rate. It just went straight up and just literally would not stop. Everybody started shopping online, and because of this, what happened was they did not have, the supply was already there for a little bit. It was able to last a couple months to fill the demand, but it started to run out really fast. Toilet paper is a prime example of this. We had enough supply there for a couple weeks, and then it just started to run out so fast. And once it started to run out, all of this stuff is made in China. Thus, it was not able to, we can't just teleport it over or anything. We have to wait for it to get here. And all of these, furniture's in high demand. People, the furniture, once it started getting bought a lot, more people continued to buy it to the point where people are out of stock. And this is probably, this potentially is also a reason of GeminiJets. They may have only been able to make certain supply quantities for these models. So there's a good chance that due to supply and demand, they don't have enough to fulfill. That's why sellouts have been more common recently. I could be wrong on that. But the point I'm trying to come across with reason number 2 is that the surge has been so unbelievable as of late. On top of all the delays for the ships already coming due to COVID restrictions, all this demand has made such a huge backlog of, it doesn't really affect the actual model airplanes themselves. That's not really the problem. It's just other materials and goods coming in currently through the ports. Because this is coming in at such a rate as it is right now, there's been more wait time to get deported on the ports in Los Angeles and California. Now, I could be wrong on this, but I don't think that the actual ships are a problem. I think there's enough ships. I just don't think there's enough, I don't think there's enough ports to unload them, because I think there's a plentiful amount of ships. I just don't think they have enough ports to unload them at the rate that the United States demands. Which is absolutely crazy to think about in context. You have just a lineup of ports, and as you guys have seen pictures throughout the screen, or on the screen, there's literally hundreds of ships waiting to be deported. And just can't happen at the rate to get our models within a reasonable amount of time. Our models likely are somewhere in that process right now, waiting on one of those ships to be deported. And once they're deported, and the process is pretty self-explanatory. They're able to be drove to Las Vegas, get to the retailer, and then they'll be shipped to to GeminiJets headquarters, then be shipped to the retailer, which will take another 3 days to a week, and then be shipped to you, which once again, another 3 days to a week. So really, it's a long, lengthy process of how this full situation unfolds. But the bottom line is, due to the perfect storm of COVID restrictions and huge supply surges in the United States due to the pandemic, both these due to the pandemic, the delay has been unbelievable in terms of these model airplanes. For you guys wondering, here's a practical example of reason number 2 with the demand being too much compared to what they would have ever anticipated. So toy makers, for example, have had to outbid and there's some big words here, unmaneuver competitors for shipping space to get their goods from overseas factories, mostly in China, in order to reach the U.S. consumers in time for the holidays. And the backup is doing more than just causing headaches because of the wait. They are also likely to increase the cost of toys themselves. Here was a report through the article as well. They said there is going to be a major shortage in toy products this year. Somebody told CNN, it says, the demand is going to be there. What is not going to be there is the product to fill the demand. Toy makers said they are being charged up 5 times the normal amount for 40-foot containers to get their goods to the United States. The added cost will almost certainly be passed directly on to the consumers, assuming that they can even get the toys they are looking for. And I think this is also a reason for the 3 price increases to this point from GeminiJets, potentially a 4th to come potentially. But I'm pretty sure at the beginning of this year, the narrow bodies were starting at $35.16, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're up to, most of them are up to like 38 to 36 or something in that realms. I'm going to take a guess that a good portion of that is probably due to the supply and demand shortages. Due to how much it costs to ship models right now, and potentially even more at the factories. I'm not sure if that got affected or not, like we talked about earlier in the video. Something dropped downstairs. That scared me. GeminiJets has had to increase these prices to make a profit. Pretty much keep their profit going, which is just crazy to think about. But this perfect storm of these 2 reasons, COVID restrictions and supply and demand, have caused the 3-month delay, and why the GeminiJets September 2021 releases and other releases have been delayed from GeminiJets. It's absolutely crazy to think about. Hopefully these port issues get better. It's really just a chain link effect like I talked about. So the chances of this ending anytime soon may be slim. I'm really not sure. A big question you guys may be thinking about, and what NG Models does, is why would GeminiJets not choose to fly these aircraft across the Pacific Ocean? It's very expensive to do as such. It's really expensive. And also on NG's behalf, they're based in China, so they ship their models to retailers in the United States. They don't have to go to the United States, or those don't have to go to the United States as it is. They can just ship these models. And the retailer ends up paying that shipping cost. To my knowledge, or they may split it. I don't know how that works. But GeminiJets, on the other hand, they got to get all these models to the United States and then go from there. I'm pretty sure GeminiJets to their international retailers airmails it. I could be wrong, something like that. But long story short, guys, the issue at the ports in California due to COVID restrictions and supply and demand issues is the reason the GeminiJets September 2021 releases are not here to this point. Like I said, I really hope it gets better. We'll just have to keep waiting. Hopefully the port issues, hopefully they're able to get caught up at some point. As vaccines that came out and things that got better, I'm hopeful that the restriction part of it may have let up a little bit. Therefore, we may be in a little bit better spot in that regard. The demand, that's not going to catch up for a long time. Until it starts balancing out a little bit, where people will keep going to the stores to at least get some things. Who knows if we'll be able to see things get better in terms of that front. But we're just going to have to keep working with it. I hope it gets better. And I think it's affected NG a little bit. I don't think it's been as big of a deal. I think the airmail is still way faster than the ports. Airports are not congested because obviously there's not restrictions in that behalf. A crane working job is much different than an unloading cargo job, to my knowledge. So, on cargo loaders. So that has been a little bit better to this point. But obviously shipping itself has been delayed. USPS first class 2 years ago would have took 3 days. In most cases right now it's taking anywhere from 7 to 10. So it's been really rough to say the least. Very, very hopeful that they'll come in soon. Of course, I got the Southwest Max 8, Turkish 7-9. UPS 757. And since Christmas is coming up, and since we hadn't had any releases yet, I am planning on getting the American CRJ-900, which I'm really excited about, and 1-200 because we can't not have that. I wasn't anticipating it initially, but it's Christmas. We can do it. I'm very excited for it. It's going to be awesome. The best question is when they're going to come, and the answer lies at the port of Los Angeles. We're just going to have to wait and see when it comes in. I'm really, really eager to see what happens, and we'll just have to wait and see. But I really hope you guys found this video helpful. If you guys would like to see more videos like this, please let me know. But that was the full explanation of what's been going on with GeminiJets and where the releases are, particularly for the September 2021 releases, and more to come. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Take it easy, everybody. Stay safe. Trust the process. Do what you love and love what you do. My name is Redriveraviation. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon as Redriveraviation is signing off.